Your mind never stops. Even when you're sitting still, it's moving. Planning, worrying, replaying conversations, imagining disasters that will never happen. This isn't just you. This is the human condition. And 900 years ago, a brilliant scholar named Al-Ghazali stood in the middle of his success and realized something terrifying. He had everything the world said would bring peace. But inside, he was drowning in chaos. So he walked away from it all. And what he found changed everything. Al-Ghazali wasn't some wandering mystic who rejected the world from the start. He was the opposite. He was the most respected intellectual of his time. Thousands of students, prestigious position, wealth, recognition, everything you're supposed to want. But one morning, he woke up and couldn't ignore it anymore. The emptiness, the constant noise in his head, the feeling that despite all his knowledge, he knew nothing about how to actually live. So he did something radical. He left. He walked away from security, from status, from everything people spend their entire lives chasing. And he went searching for what actually matters. What he discovered wasn't a theory. It wasn't philosophy. It was a practical path. 7 steps that anyone can follow. Not to escape life, but to finally live it without being torn apart by every thought, every fear, every desire that passes through your mind. This isn't about becoming some enlightened being who floats above human problems. This is about becoming someone who can face those problems without falling apart. Someone who can experience chaos without becoming chaotic. Someone who carries peace inside them, no matter what's happening outside. So let's walk through these 7 steps. Not as abstract ideas, but as real practices that changed Al-Ghazali's life and have guided millions since. These aren't things you learn once and forget. These are things you practice, things you return to, things that slowly, over time, transform the way you relate to yourself and the world around you. The first step is recognizing the illness. And the illness is this. You think your thoughts are you. Every worry that crosses your mind, you believe it. Every fear, every doubt, every critical voice, you assume it's telling you the truth. But Al-Ghazali realized something profound. Your mind is not a truth teller. Your mind is a storyteller. And most of the stories it tells are fiction. Worst-case scenarios that never happen. Judgments that have no basis in reality. Fears about futures that will never arrive. But you treat these stories as facts. You let them control your decisions, shape your emotions, determine your entire experience of life. The illness is believing the voice in your head is wise, when most of the time it's just afraid. It's mistaking mental noise for insight. It's giving authority to thoughts that have no authority. And until you see this clearly, until you recognize that most of what your mind tells you is unreliable at best and destructive at worst, you'll be trapped. Trapped in a cycle of reacting to thoughts as if they're reality. Trapped in a prison made of your own mental patterns. The first step toward peace is seeing this. Really seeing it. Not just understanding it intellectually, but catching yourself in the act. Noticing when you're believing a thought that's making you suffer. Noticing when you're treating a story like a fact. Once you see the illness, you can move to the second step. Questioning the voice. This doesn't mean dismissing every thought. It means learning to examine them. When your mind says you're not good enough, ask where's the evidence? When it says everything will fall apart, ask is that true or is that fear? When it tells you that you need to control everything or disaster will strike, ask who taught me to believe that. Most of our thoughts are not original. They're inherited. Absorbed from parents, from culture, from past experiences that we've turned into universal rules. And we never question them. We just obey. But Al-Ghazali learned that wisdom begins with doubt. Not cynical doubt that rejects everything, but honest inquiry that asks, is this actually true? Because when you start questioning your thoughts, instead of blindly following them, something shifts. You create space. Space between the thought and your reaction. Space between the fear and the behavior. Space between the story and the belief. And in that space, freedom begins to appear. You're no longer the puppet of your mind. You're the observer, the one who can hear the voice, but doesn't have to do what it says. The third step is understanding where peace actually lives. And here's what Al-Ghazali discovered that most people miss. Peace is not something you achieve. It's not a destination you arrive at after fixing all your problems. Peace is not out there waiting for you to finally get your life together. Peace is what remains when you stop disturbing it. Think about a lake. When the wind stops, when the rain stops, when nothing is stirring the surface, the lake naturally returns to stillness. It doesn't try to be still. Stillness is its nature. Your mind is the same. Beneath all the noise, beneath all the worry and planning and replaying, there's a natural state of peace. But you keep disturbing it, with endless thinking, with resistance to what is, with trying to control what you can't control. The path to peace is not about adding something. It's about removing what disrupts it. This realization changes everything. Because now you're not chasing peace. You're not trying to manufacture it through perfect circumstances or the right techniques. You're simply learning to stop disturbing the peace that's already there. You're learning to let the wind die down, to let the surface settle, to stop throwing stones into the water and then wondering why it's not calm. The fourth step is acceptance of what you cannot change. This is where most people get stuck, because acceptance sounds like giving up. It sounds like passivity, like letting life walk all over you. But that's not what Al-Ghazali meant. Acceptance is not resignation. Acceptance is seeing reality clearly. It's the recognition that some things are within your control and some things are not. And wasting your energy trying to control what you can't control is the fastest way to lose your peace. You cannot control what other people think of you. You cannot control whether opportunities come or don't come. You cannot control whether people love you back, whether plans work out, whether life goes the way you hoped. But you can control how you respond. You can control where you place your attention. You can control whether you spend your days fighting reality or working with it. And here's the secret. When you stop fighting what you can't change, you suddenly have energy for what you can change. When you stop resisting reality, you can finally engage with it effectively. Acceptance is not weakness. Acceptance is the foundation of all real power, but acceptance alone is not enough. Which brings us to the fifth step, action rooted in clarity. Because Al-Ghazali wasn't teaching people to just accept everything and do nothing. He was teaching the difference between reactive action and intentional action. Most of what you do each day is reaction. Someone says something, you react. A thought appears, you react. A fear arises, you react. You're constantly being pulled by external forces, by internal impulses, by the momentum of habit. And this reactive living is exhausting. It's chaotic. It's the opposite of peace. But when you've done the first 4 steps, when you've recognized the illness, questioned the voice, understood where peace lives, and accepted what you cannot change, something shifts. Now your actions come from a different place. Not from fear, not from the desperate need to control, but from clarity, from a calm center that sees what needs to be done and does it without drama. This is what Al-Ghazali called aligned action. Action that flows from your deeper values, not from surface anxieties. Action that serves your actual well-being, not just your ego's need for validation. Action that you can take and then release, without attachment to the outcome. This kind of action doesn't drain you. It energizes you, because it's not driven by fear of what will happen if you don't act. It's driven by a clear understanding of what's right, what's needed, what aligns with who you actually are. And when you act from this place, you can work hard without burning out. You can care deeply without being destroyed when things don't go your way. You can engage fully with life without losing yourself in it. The sixth step is relationship with the present moment. And this is where everything we've talked about comes together. Because the root of all inner chaos is time travel. Your mind is almost never here. It's in the past, replaying what happened, analyzing what you should have said, holding grudges, nursing regrets. Or it's in the future, worrying about what might happen, planning for scenarios that may never arrive, trying to control outcomes that are still imaginary. And while your mind is time traveling, life is happening right here, right now. And you're missing it. Al-Ghazali spent years lost in time travel, lost in philosophical debates about abstract concepts while his actual life, his actual experience, was slipping through his fingers. And when he finally stopped, when he finally brought his attention to the present moment, he realized something profound. This moment is the only moment you ever actually have. The past is gone. You can't change it. The future hasn't arrived. You can't control it. All you have is now. And now is always enough. The present moment doesn't need fixing. It is what it is. And when you stop trying to escape it, when you stop judging it, when you stop wishing it were different, something remarkable happens. You find peace, not because the moment is perfect, but because you've stopped fighting it. This doesn't mean you stop planning or stop learning from the past. It means you do those things consciously, when needed, and then return to the present. It means you stop living in your head and start living in your life. It means you notice the breath moving through your body, the sounds around you, the feeling of your feet on the ground. These simple sensory experiences anchor you to now. And now is the only place peace can be found. The seventh and final step is the one that ties everything together. It's what Al-Ghazali called knowing yourself beyond your story. Because everything we've talked about so far, all 6 steps, they're about managing your experience, working with your mind, finding peace within the human condition. But this final step goes deeper. It asks a question that changes everything. Who are you really? Not your job, not your relationships, not your accomplishments, not your failures, not even your thoughts and feelings. Who is the one observing all of that? Who is the awareness that notices the mind thinking, the heart feeling, the body moving? Most people spend their entire lives identifying with their story. I am successful. I am a failure. I am loved. I am rejected. I am confident. I am anxious. But all of these are just temporary states. They come and go. They change. They're part of the weather of your life, not the sky itself. Al-Ghazali realized that beneath all the changing conditions of your life, there's something unchanging. A witness, an awareness, a presence that's been with you since you were a child, that will be with you until your last breath. That presence is who you actually are, and it's never disturbed. It's never broken. It's never lacking peace, because it's not caught up in the story. It's the space in which the story unfolds. When you start to identify with this deeper awareness, instead of with your thoughts and circumstances, everything shifts. You can still have preferences. You can still pursue goals. You can still feel emotions. But you're no longer defined by them. You're no longer destroyed when they don't go your way. Because you know something deeper. You know that who you are is not dependent on external conditions. You know that your peace is not something you have to earn or achieve or protect. It's your fundamental nature. It's what you are when you stop pretending to be everything else. This is not an intellectual understanding. You can't think your way to this knowing. You have to experience it. And the way you experience it, it is through practice, through repeatedly returning to the present moment, through questioning your thoughts, through accepting what is, through acting from clarity instead of fear, through all the steps we've walked through. They're not separate practices. They're all pointing to the same realization. You are not the chaos. You are the peace beneath the chaos. You are not the storm. You are the sky that holds the storm without being damaged by it. Al-Ghazali's journey wasn't about escaping the world. It was about finding a way to be in the world without being torn apart by it. It was about discovering that peace is not a luxury for people who have perfect lives. Peace is a practice for people who are living real lives with real challenges and real pain, but who refuse to let those challenges define them, who refuse to let external chaos create internal chaos, who understand that no matter what's happening around them, they can choose how they meet it. And here's what nobody tells you about this path. It's not linear. You don't master step 1 and move on to step 2 and never have to think about step 1 again. These steps are not a ladder. They're a spiral. You return to them again and again at deeper levels. You recognize the illness of believing your thoughts, but then a new thought pattern emerges and you have to recognize it all over again. You practice acceptance, but then a new situation arises that you desperately want to control, and you have to practice acceptance again. You touch the present moment, but then you drift back into time travel, and you have to return again. This is not failure. This is the practice. Peace is not a destination where you arrive, and then everything is easy. Peace is a way of being that you cultivate through repeated return, through noticing when you've lost it and choosing to come back, through falling into old patterns and consciously stepping out of them, through forgetting who you are and remembering again, and again, and again. Each time you return, you're not starting over. You're going deeper. You're strengthening the muscle of awareness. You're training yourself to recognize peace not as something outside you that you have to find, but as something inside you that you can access at any moment by simply stopping the disturbance. Al-Ghazali didn't write these steps as a formula for perfect peace. He wrote them as a map for imperfect humans trying to find their way through a chaotic world. He wrote them because he lived them, because he experienced the breaking point where success meant nothing and inner turmoil meant everything, because he walked away from everything to find the one thing that actually mattered. And what he found was this: peace is not out there. Peace is not in achievement, not in approval, not in perfect circumstances. Peace is in you. It's always been in you. It's waiting for you to stop disturbing it and let it rise to the surface. So these 7 steps are not things you do once. They're things you return to daily, hourly, moment by moment. They're how you train yourself to live from your center instead of being thrown around by every external force. They're how you learn to carry stillness inside you, even when the world around you is anything but still. They're how you become someone who doesn't need life to be perfect in order to be at peace. Someone who can face difficulty without collapsing. Someone who can experience loss without losing themselves. Someone who knows that no matter what happens, there's a place inside them that cannot be touched by the chaos. This is what Al-Ghazali discovered. And this is what's available to you. Not someday when you finally have your life together. Not when you've solved all your problems. But right now, in this moment, the moment you stop disturbing the peace and let it be what it already is. The moment you stop believing every thought. The moment you accept what you cannot change. The moment you return to know. The moment you remember who you actually are beneath all the stories. That moment is always available. And in that moment, you find what you've been searching for all along. Not because you've gone somewhere else, but because you've finally come home.